Okay, we're recording, and I
Okay.
can share the screen in just a moment. Okay, and there's the agenda.
There we
All
go.
right. I'm calling to order the Middleton Board of Selectmen meeting dated June 30th, 2020.
Oh, I gotta shut my thing off. Sorry. I'm shutting my volume off.
Okay. Due to the state of emergency in Massachusetts due to the COVID-19 outbreak, this meeting will be held via Zoom, an internet-based space. It is the intent of the virtual meeting space will be made accessible to the public. However, if there is not a possible, despite best efforts, and full and complete transcript of the meeting will be posted on the town's website as soon as practical upon the conclusion of the proceedings. Just to let everybody know, if you are joining, you consent to have both your voice and your picture broadcast with this meeting. So, first agenda, the warrants. Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of warrants tonight, one for fiscal 20, one for fiscal 21. Warrant number 2027, which is the second to last warrant for fiscal year 20 on payroll. We have $657,880. On bills payable, we have $748,426. We have the normal payroll deductions in the amount of $68,674. On DPW, $14,717 for waste disposal and $7,700 for mowing. Part of that is mowing at the golf course, and then some machine maintenance there at DPW also for $47.75. And then under MELD, purchase of power for $363,695. Sarah Wood, or let me do the other one first and we'll do them together. Warrant number 2101, the first warrant of the new fiscal year that starts tomorrow. Payroll, all we have is a small amount, $47,818. That's for school department central office staff. And then a couple of payments that we make at the onset of the fiscal year. Our Chubb insurance policy for $77,243. Chubb is our insurer for police and fire, 111F coverage. $10,000 for Munis, which is our financial software package. And then down at the bottom, our retirement assessment in the amount of $2,032,369. Sarah Wood has reviewed these and asks the board's affirmative action.
Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Is it Todd? Who's the secretary again? I'm sorry.
The clerk, I think, is still me.
Still you. Okay, Todd, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Selectman Prentakis.
Yes.
Selectman Cassiotis. Yes. Selectman Cresta.
Yes.
Selectman Hooton.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Great. All right. Again, I have my little phone. I'm waiting for Tanya. So our next agenda item is do we have minutes?
June 16th and June 24th.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the June 16th and June 24th minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have a roll call vote, please?
Selectman Prentakis.
Yes.
Selectman Cassiotis.
Yes.
Selectman Cresta.
Yes.
Selectman Hooton.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Great. It passed unanimously. Our next agenda item is the town administrator's update. Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of items tonight. Thanks to everybody who attended last week's annual town meeting. The town clerk reported that slightly under 70 voters attended, so it was a good thing that the board took advantage of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2020 to reduce the quorum so that we could take advantage of that and get our budget adopted before the end of the fiscal year. So much more labor-intensive meeting, annual town meeting or town meeting of any sort than normal. I'd like to thank the school department staff for their efforts in setting up the room in a quite different way, and also for providing the air conditioning unit that made it more tolerable than it otherwise would have been on that night. It was a tough night, so it would have been pretty beastly without air conditioning.
Yeah.
Thanks to Barb Pacelli, the town moderator, for running a great meeting. Barb really does her homework leading up to all of the town meetings, and it really paid off with this one, as well as Eileen Twist for her help in setting up and coordinating and getting the checkers and everybody there. I think I thank Sarah Wood a lot for a lot of things, because Sarah Wood does a lot of stuff for us. We are very fortunate to have her. She gets, most people think she just does budget stuff all the time, but she does that. She's had more than her fair share of budget work to do this year, but she also, along with Tanya, did most of the compilation and editing for the warrant book. So there's a lot of other stuff. So thanks to Sarah, thanks to Tanya, thanks for all the employees who stepped up, did things that that are not generally part of their work product or their expectations. So, and thanks finally to the Board of Selectmen and to the Finance Committee for the direction and guidance that you all provided throughout the course of the year and throughout this highly unusual year of developing, shredding, redeveloping, reshredding budgets, developing the 1/12 budget, which was some work, but and we ended up not needing it, but glad to have had it in reserve if we did. So we know that there are likely going to be a need for changes before too long. We're already starting to work on the warrant for a special town meeting, probably in September. So we'll take up those articles that we pulled off this year and get those addressed, assuming we're able to do so. On June 12th, I don't think I reported this previously, we submitted a request for CARES Act reimbursement. We received that. So CARES Act essentially covers the portion of our emergency expenses that FEMA will not cover. FEMA generally reimburses 75% of our unexpected costs. CARES Act will pick up that other, for the most part, that other 25%. So we submitted that a couple of weeks ago. We received the CARES Act payment, $33,000 and change, the day after the board's last regular meeting. We had a meeting yesterday with MEMA. Chief Martinuck, Sarah, and I had a phone conference with MEMA to start to work on that process too. So we'll continue to chase all of that. We also, I think I mentioned this in my email update to the board the other night. We already received the approval for the deficit spending that the board signed on Wednesday night. That came in about 24 hours later. So glad to have that. Excuse me. Glad to have that in our pocket if we need it. Last Friday evening, there was a Blue Stripe rally on the front lawn of the Flint Library, and that all went off without a hitch. Crowds were not as large as expected, but it was good showing, and everybody was well behaved, and so another positive event. I mentioned at the last meeting the Maple Street, Liberty Street reconstruction project. Now that project will be starting next week with a little bit of mobilization and preliminary work. It's about a 2-month project, so they should be done shortly after Labor Day. Somebody, I think Brian had asked what the hours of work would be. And under the contract, they can work from 7 to 5. We're not sure that they'll work that long. it's, it's the best time of year to be doing this kind of work and to be in the road. And they won't be in the road all the time. They'll be, or they won't be in the middle of Maple Street all the time. So, that'll be ongoing. There'll be details out there for the duration of that project. And then last meeting we went to a level 4 water restriction. We have since gone to a level 5. Level 4 wasn't in place for very long because of the drought. We almost immediately went to level 5. So right now it's handheld hoses and watering cans between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. No pools, no washing of cars, things like that. So, and then finally, one last thing. At probably our next meeting or a meeting in July, we'll do a couple of joint appointments. We didn't have anybody elected to the Housing Authority. There were 2 seats open. One was filled by write-in. The other one, I believe it was a 2-2 tie in write-in. So there's goes down as a failure to elect. So under the statute, that's a joint appointment between the Board of Selectmen and the remaining members of the Housing Authority. So we'll do that as well as the Planning Board alternates at an upcoming meeting. So that's what I've got for updates tonight.
Yeah, Andy,
Yes.
is there any guidance as to when the ability to do our meetings through Zoom will end?
Not specifically. The board could meet in person if it wants to. There's still I think the 10-person gathering limit is still in effect. I don't think that's been lifted. I know that some boards of selectmen in other communities have started to meet in person. And I know that only because some colleagues of mine have been in the running for town administrator and town manager jobs, and I've watched the interviews to see how they do. And some of those boards are meeting in person, but with no audience. So we would still need a Zoom component to this, but it's up to the board to do that. The assessors have, I think they met last week or 2 weeks ago in the parking lot outside. I think they're meeting tomorrow outside. So whenever if the board wants to move in that direction, I think you could, but again, would still have to have the Zoom component for the public.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, sure. Andy, I know that the plan is now to look at a potential September special town meeting.
Right.
Fall town meeting, I guess we'll call it. I wonder how much flexibility is in that. And I know it's because we have a primary election coming up in the fall and then a second election in November for the full presidential and state election. I'm a little concerned that we may not have a clear local aid picture by September. There's still no guarantee that the state will actually have a budget complete by then. So is there going to be flexibility? I mean, when is your hope to be able to set that date?
So I started working on it last week, just because I know that it's going to go fast. Time's going to pass quickly. And so looking at the calendar, looking at when the primary election is, when we expect the early voting to be for the presidential, some of the religious holidays that fall in September, looking somewhere around September 22nd, give or take a week. It's not far out, I'll tell you. And I'll probably have the first draft of the warrant for the board to consider sometime this month or at a meeting in early August. So the other option that we have, and pardon me as I look at the calendar as we talk, would be sometime, it would probably have to be the week of November 16th. I don't know that there's another time that we could really do. It looks like there'll be 3 weeks of early voting for the presidential, so that would start around the, around Columbus Day, I think. But I share your concern, Brian, that I'm not sure we're going to have a state budget by then. If there's a consensus revenue estimate, a local aid estimate, I'd take that. But I think if we can't go forward in September, we're probably looking at that week between Veterans Day and Thanksgiving.
Is October 6th possible? That's 2 weeks after the September 22nd date you mentioned.
Yeah, that's probably the latest that we could go in that time frame. So I was thinking somewhere between like the 21st and of September and the 6th. I always like to leave a little time for the clerk to recover after an election. But that would be, I think the 6th would be a possibility, but I don't think any later than that.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to the clerk or the moderator about those dates yet.
Just remember that the legislature is out of formal session at the end of July, so
Yeah.
unless the consent decree by both chambers is to come back into formal session, this could be a really ugly budget process in the state.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions for Mr. Sheehan?
Nope. Nope.
All right. Our next agenda item is a reorganization of the board. I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to nominate Mr. Cassiotis as chairman.
And you know what? For the second time in 20 years, I'm going to second the nomination of Rick Cassiotis. Unfortunately, it's not the same Rick Cassiotis that I nominated 20 years ago, but it is a Rick Cassiotis. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I guess, aye. Do we do a roll call? I guess, Todd, your last act.
All right. Selectman Prentakis,
Yes.
Selectman Cassiotis,
Yes.
Selectman Cresta,
Yes.
Selectman Hooton,
Yes.
and myself, yes.
All right. Do we have a nomination for clerk?
Oh, no.
I don't mind to keep doing it.
We
Unless-
usually nominate who happens to be absent at the meeting, but Todd does a great job at it. So, Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Todd Moreski as board secretary.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? If not, now for your official last act, Mr. Moreski, could you, not last act for this term, could you take a roll call vote?
Selectman Prentakis,
Yes.
Selectman Cassiotis,
Yes.
Selectman Cresta,
Yes.
Selectman Hooton,
Yes.
myself, yes.
And if you thought that gavel looked small in my hand, wait till you see it in Rick's. All right, Mr. Cassiotis, the meeting is yours.
Well, all righty. First of all, it's thank you for thinking of me, and it'll be an honor. And I hope I can, keep the standards up that you gentlemen have shown me since I've been on the board. All right. So I guess the third on our agenda would be a public comment period. Are we aware that there is one?
No, I don't think we have anyone out there.
Nobody on there. Okay, then we can, without one, we can move on to number 4. A review and vote on any reappointments effective July 1, 2020.
So I did put together a form of a vote for the board's consideration. And we need actually 2 votes for this. One is to reappoint the officials, and then one is to dissolve the Housing Production Plan Committee, which has completed its work. So Tanya's putting those up.
Okay.
Andy, on the list of reappointments, there was the assistant assessor and the administrative assessor, but those are appointments of the Board of Assessors, not us.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, thank you, Costa. I apologize for that.
Yeah, I think that might have been me now that I'm realizing it. My apologies.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint the board and committee members and the employees, all as shown on the reappointment list. And I move to dissolve the Housing Production Plan Committee.
Mr. Cresta, do you mean as amended by,
Yes, as amended.
I'll
With,
second that. I'll second that motion.
Okay, second, we have the two votes. Any further discussion? Having none, if I could ask Selectman Moreski to take a roll call vote.
Selectman Prentakis,
Yes.
Selectman Cassiotis,
Yes.
Selectman Cresta,
yes.
Selectman Hooton,
Yes.
and myself, yes.
Very good. Motion carries unanimously. Let's see, on the second one, I guess we'll have discussion and review annual town meeting. Mr. Sheehan,
Yeah, not much in addition to what I said. I mentioned I'm already working on a draft warrant for the fall. Just again, thank everybody that came out and everybody that has a hand in it. There's a lot of moving parts to these things, and I'm very appreciative of all the help that everybody gives us.
Yeah,
Nothing really else for follow-up.
all right. I think, we need to have one bit of follow-up. At the beginning, Andy thanked all these various, people that, helped bring the town meeting together. But Andy himself deserves our thanks for all that he's done, during this convoluted period of the COVID crisis. So, your efforts and diligence are appreciated by the board.
Thank you, Gus. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you all.
If I could add one more item as it relates to town meetings. So the state has finally, the DESE has finally released guidance on what they believe the fall is going to look like for the return to the schools for both Middleton Elementary as well as Masconomet. And there's a lot of what ifs in there that I think that our two superintendents and our two business administrators are grappling with right now. And I'd ask at some point in the future, it would be helpful to get a little bit of an update. And in the case of Masco, it could be Costa as a member of the Masco School Committee, but also from the elementary of what this is going to mean. While there will be some funds that will likely come from the state. They're talking about $220 million that will be allocated across the school districts. But when you put big cities in there like Boston, Worcester, Springfield, those amounts disappear quickly. But one of the concerns that I have is the guidance as it relates to students on buses, which will likely have a potential effect on the number of buses that we currently have allocated across both the regional school district and the elementary transportation. So, I know that'll be part of what could potentially be future discussion at the special town meeting in September, October, November timeframe. But I think if there's one area outside of local aid that there's a big what if right now is the school reopening and what some of those costs will have to be. And I'm not sure. While I think some of the dollars for school districts will be, again, coming from the state and possibly the feds. I think that's our big one if, and that would be helpful for us to get some line of sight to that.
Sure. We can certainly arrange to have Scott or one of the school committee members provide an update from Middleton Elementary.
And it doesn't have to be soon because I think they're still trying to digest all of that came out last week.
Yeah, they are. We talk fairly regularly, and there's a lot of burden being put on schools in terms of PPE and things like that, and just coming up with 3 different operating systems, remote, in-person, and hybrid. So they get a lot of plates in the air to try to figure all of this out, and I know Michelle has the same issues, I'm sure, where she is, and I think every school district is grappling with all this currently. So, but we'll get them in, or
Okay,
we'll get an update from them.
The next Masco School Committee meeting is July 15th. So, after at our meeting would be meeting on July 28th. So I could, provide an update at that point.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I'm sorry, was there anything else on that? No. Okay. I guess we're going to go to now look for a vote to accept the following donations to Middleton Food Pantry. The first one being $500 from Barney Restaurant Group, aka or DBA Captain Pizza, which I notice is a combination of customer donations and the business itself. I guess we could just do one at a time, if I'm not mistaken. That would be.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve with thanks a $500 contribution to the Middleton Food Pantry from Barney Restaurant Group, Captain Pizza.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sorry.
Very good. We have a second. Any no further discussion? If I could ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
Selectman Prentakis.
Yes.
Selectman Cassiotis.
Yes.
Selectman Hooton.
Yes.
Selectman Cresta.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. And along the same lines, also look for a vote to accept to the Middleton Food Pantry a generous donation of $5,000 from Denise Perry. If I could get a motion to accept the donation.
I move we approve with thanks.
Very good. We have a second.
Second.
Very good. We have motion, a second, and with no further discussion, again, I'll ask the Selectman Rescue for a roll call vote.
Selectman Prentakis.
Yes.
Selectman Cassiotis.
Yes.
Selectman Hooton.
Yes.
Selectman Cresta.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Very good. Motion passes unanimously. And again, as we said, very special thanks to that. I've been down there a little bit more, and it's pretty active down there in that area. So that money is well received and well spent. Okay, now on the final, I don't know if I see it on the agenda, but I see some pictures of the area behind Cumberland's. I'm sorry, is that? No, it was on the packet. Okay. You guys see that as well in the packet?
Oh, that was from a Masco student who reached out to us. Included in the package just for information.
Okay. All right.
Basically trying to encourage a sort of do his part to clean up and encourage other people to clean up. So he had some ideas about putting up signage around some of our public properties for carry in, carry out. So I think we're gonna try to do that.
Oh, nice.
Try to tackle some of the trash problems. We hear about it, fairly frequently on certain roadsides, and he's seen it in the downtown area.
All right. Well, yeah, we thank him for that. It looks like he took some time to write us a nice little letter too. So
Yeah.
thank you to Noah Venezia, a student at Masconomet Middle School, 7th grader. I guess it was part of a project, Power of One project. Okay. Thank you for that. And let's see. So I think that's it. If I'm not blocked off here, is there any new business at all, or?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I know that, as Costa was saying, we may try to meet together, but since I'm no longer the chairman, is it still okay for me to sign the warrant, or do we need the chairman to authorize the chairman to sign the warrant?
So the vote by the board was to designate you as the signatory.
Okay, great.
You individually rather than you by position.
Okay,
So you
good.
can continue to do that.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Very good.
The other thing I'll throw out there, we talked briefly about July 28th. There's not much pending right now. So if the board wanted to skip the 14th, I think we could do that. If something changes and we get hit and we need to meet, I can certainly let you know. But we've had a lot of meetings over the the last
Yeah.
2 months. And if you'd like a week off, I think this would be the time to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should just meet the end of the month.
Sounds
That sounds
good to
good.
me.
Same here.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So let's see here. The end of the month would be
The 28th.
28th. Okay, so I want to write down now. 7/28 for our next meeting. Okay, if there's if I can, if there's nothing else to add, I could
I make a motion that we adjourn.
to adjourn. Any second?
No need for a second.
No need a second. No, who would vote against, right? All right, well, thank you very much. And thanks again, Andy, too, for, obviously the organization and, leading us through all this. Thank you very much.
I don't do it alone, so I got a lot of people helping out.
Good. Pass it along for me then. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, people. I look forward to